Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very successful entrepreneur from Chicago, USA, Debbie Frisch. Debbie, welcome to the show.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for asking me.
Thank you. Debbie is the founder and executive director of HelloBaby, which is a freestanding, free of charge, drop and play space for babies, toddlers, and their caregivers. She's also an author of a book titled Hello Baby. And given the work that she's been doing, she has been awarded the Champion for Children Award. So, Debbie, before we come to Hello Baby, a few questions for you. What early life
Sure.
experiences shaped your passion for children and families?
I grew up in a pretty difficult childhood.
Hmm.
I think I was under fight or flight most of the time. I wasn't always safe, and I mostly remember being very, very, very lonely. So I think by doing the work I'm doing now, it's really also healing a part of myself.
Hmm. And what were some of the defining moments that pushed you towards dedicating your life to underserved communities?
Well, I have two now grown daughters,
Mm,
and I was a stay-at-home mom. And when they both went to school full time, I needed something meaningful to fill my newfound time. So I
mm,
began volunteering and working as a board officer, a board director, and a volunteer. And the focus always seemed to be young families raising children in
mm,
underserved communities. That I just
mm,
kept coming back to that. And probably the most significant part of that work is I was a foster care mom for about 15 years. It was short-term foster care,
mm,
uh, several nights to several months. And mostly it would be a birth to 5 years old, but mostly that first year is what I had.
mm. Debbie, you've been involved deeply with adoption, foster care, and volunteering. What lessons did these roles teach you about resilience and compassion?
I have really seen the power of the human spirit.
Mm,
And I've seen it across the board through all these experiences. Love cannot solve everything,
mm,
but it is a great foundation for which to begin.
mm,
And I've had babies, discharged to my care who had some drug exposure and they're separated from their mother, and that is the core connection. So to sever that, I think, is a core wound.
mm,
But I see how they begin to thrive in care and to trust me. And I just found that profound.
Amazing. Let's talk about Hello Baby now. What inspired the
Okay.
creation of Hello Baby, and how did the idea first come up?
Well, it evolved from my foster care experiences, and I raised my daughters on the north side of the city,
Hmm.
where there were plenty of resources, and I was still exhausted. And then when I began taking care of these babies, I saw how isolating it can be to parent in a
Hmm.
community where the resources are limited. And it's this thing that's
Hmm.
really making childhood hard.
Hmm.
But I'd get these babies in care sometimes. Let's say this happened several times, but a
Hmm.
9-month-old baby, and I could tell they'd probably been strapped in a car seat in front of a screen for most of their
Hmm.
lives. And
Hmm.
I don't fault the parents for that because I think with the increasing wealth disparity, parents are doing everything they can to keep a
Hmm.
roof over their head and put dinner on the table.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty much a no screen zone, with the
Hmm.
kids.
Hmm.
Um, and so I'd get these babies, they'd come into care and I'd get them out of the car seat and I'd have this play mat all set up for them on the floor and I'd get down with them and you'd think I was torturing them. They just
Hmm.
hated it. They didn't know what
Hmm.
to do with it. But I stuck with them and I made them do it. And 9 months old, they're not rolling over. Their core strength is really weak. They are behind on every developmental milestone already.
Hmm.
But in 5 weeks, by the time they left, I had them caught up. And I thought, not everybody is going to have a Debbie to come in and catch them up.
Absolutely.
So I decided instead of taking the babies into my home one at a time, which I absolutely loved,
Mm,
it was my turn to go where the need was the greatest.
wow. The concept of play deserts is central to your mission. Can you
Mhm.
explain for my viewers and listeners what is a play desert and why it matters so much?
If you're familiar with the term food deserts,
Mm-hmm.
and that means there's communities with lack of access to healthy, affordable food.
Mm,
So what we're doing, play deserts simply means there's aren't places for children to play.
mm,
Um, and most of the spots are on the north side, and it takes a long time to travel there. It's expensive. It's just not a viable option for a lot of families. And it's simple things like families don't want to use the park sometimes because of violence. Maybe you're living on the second floor and the neighbor downstairs doesn't want to hear this all day, the little feet pitter pat, pitter pat, but kids need to play.
mm,
So, and play is really important. So we're addressing that.
mm. When you started Hello Baby in 2017, what is the biggest challenge you faced in turning vision into reality?
Well, nobody else was doing this. And to me, it was the most obvious idea in the world. And
Mm,
it's a pretty economically efficient way to give children a good launch in life.
mm,
And we all know, the biggest time of brain growth is birth to 3 years old, but that's also
mm,
the biggest social service gap.
mm, mm,
So I think it was figuring out the model. And I also think you get a lot of advice from people when you're first starting something out, and I listened to it all, but in the end, I thought I have one shot to do this. So I had to do what resonated with me and
mm,
hold to my true. And I thought, if it doesn't work, I want it to be because of me, not because I took some bad or took some advice that didn't feel right to me.
mm. And tell me, what does a typical day at Hello Baby look like for children and
Oh,
caregivers?
it's so fun. We register guests the first time they come. They do not need to bring anything special to register,
Mm,
and it's not a very invasive registration process. We
mhm,
want to make it warm and friendly. I ask a couple questions just because that's what, funders of grants want to know, but we
mm,
keep it pretty simple. So you register, we're open Monday to Friday, 9 to 4. You come in anytime, no appointments are necessary. Caregiver stays with child. There's never a charge for anything.
mm,
It's a beautiful space that was designed by Perkins and Will, which is an international architecture firm pro bono.
mhm,
um, we have an abundant assortment of toys, and we're always kind of rotating them out. We keep some so it's familiar, but we introduce something new. We have a climbing center, a large motor center. We have an art circle, and we have daily programming. And
mhm,
that is some our staff provides, but most of it is donated by some of the top early childhood education providers in the city.
mm,
And
mm,
they're doing that because they want to serve the whole city, not just the affluent.
mm,
And then we support families with the things that public aid doesn't cover.
mm.
Like in the United States, public aid does not cover diapers. And do you know how expensive those
Yeah,
are?
yeah.
So we do diapers. We're now, because our government is shut down, we're accelerating those giveaways, formula, because it's really babies have to
Mm.
have that.
Yeah, yeah.
And we work with a partner, Cradles to Crayons, who supplies us with bags of gently used clothing each
Mm,
month, and we distribute those out throughout the community. So it's a place of connection for caregivers, it's a place of play for children, and it's a place of you can get resources that you might not be able to get otherwise.
wow. How do you see Hello Baby reducing inequality in early childhood development?
Well, one of my taglines is to level the playing field.
Yeah.
Um, so we know if you start school behind,
Mm,
that's probably where you're going to stay.
mm,
And if you're not playing or if you're being raised by a device, you're
mm.
not going to do well once you get into the classroom.
Yeah.
Devices don't teach you social skills or empathy, resilience, how to manage a conflict.
Mm,
So, I'm not a huge believer. I don't think you need to be reading at 3 years old unless you want to do it.
mm,
But um, the other stuff comes organically, your numbers, your letters, colors, shapes,
mm.
that's all going to come through
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
Um, but you really need the social skills. When you
That's
get
right.
to school, you know how to work with your peers, make a friend, be a friend, keep a friend,
Mm,
work with adults, be a part of a group. And we are preparing kids to do that.
mm. And how do you see technology playing a role in early childhood support and play spaces?
It should not.
Hmm.
These kids are going to have plenty of access to technology
Mm,
as they get older. And I don't want their brains to initially get hooked on it.
correct.
I'm a new grandmother, and her parents they're finally letting her screen time me a little bit. She's a year old, but they're very careful about because her eyes would just see it and go.
Mm, mm,
And we all have one of these in our hands now, but it's not a rewarding experience,
correct.
especially for kids. I think it's really hurting our kids.
Correct. I agree with you. What
Thank you.
impact have you noticed on caregivers who bring their children to Hello Baby?
So what's happened, I think a lot of these, and it's grandmas, aunts and uncles, friends,
Mm,
babysitters, mothers. There was so much social isolation. So they've really come and they formed community that goes beyond us, but it started there. They go to each other's birthday parties, they babysit each other's kids. If
mm.
someone's short with a supply,
Yeah.
they they share their resources. And I think it's created a really beautiful community for them.
Mm,
We've become like a neighborhood hub.
mm. And as the founder and executive director, how do you balance your roles of your vision, operations, and community engagement?
Probably not that well.
Mm,
But I'm the organizing, the working stuff is the back of office stuff is the
mm,
stuff I like the least and probably what I do the most.
mm.
But it's important,
Yeah.
So as we grow, what I'd really like to do is just get back on the floor with the kids
Mm. Well
and
said.
be present.
Mm. The next few questions are about your book now. What
Okay.
motivated you to write your first book, Hello Baby? And how did collaborating with Isaac Stone Simonelli help shape the narrative of your book?
I know you interviewed Alex Counts on a
Yeah.
previous
Yeah.
podcast, and he has consulted with our
Mm,
organization.
mm,
And I was talking to him about growth. We do have a second site coming online. But how do I grow? And I didn't really want a franchise, and there's only so much I can do on my own. And he goes, "You should write a book."
mm,
And so I'm like, that kind of feels right. So Isaac is a former colleague of my son-in-law's and friend.
mm,
So this was during the pandemic, but my son-in-law put us together. We worked on it for over a year, probably
mm,
all on Zoom. But he was just wonderful to work with. But what we're doing with the book, and this was why Alex recommended we write it, is I'm sharing the model. So this is what we did. This is where we had some hardships. This maybe I would have done a little differently. But
mm,
overall, the model really works so that anybody who wants to replicate it, you can do it and make it your own. But this is
mm.
how we did it.
Fascinating. What is the central message you want readers to take away from your book?
I think, especially where the world is today, I think we're so overwhelmed sometimes that we just want to pull the cover up over our heads. And I think sometimes the tendency is you can't do everything, so you're not going to do anything.
Mm,
And I think my message is pick your thing you want to do, you love to do,
mm,
your way to serve, and give it back.
Amazing. Very powerful message. Debbie, I have time for two more questions for you.
Sure.
You were recognized with the Champion for Children Award. Tell me about the award and how did the recognition influence your work and your motivation?
That I received that during the pandemic from the Bright Promises Foundation.
Mm,
It was a lovely validation of which my unpaid volunteer career,
mm,
which I've been at for probably 20, 25 years now. So it was just a lovely recognition.
mm, mm. Amazing. And my last question for you, what gives you hope as you look at the future of children and families in underserved communities?
I do have hope because I've gotten to know these families and they're such hardworking, good people.
Mm,
And no matter where we're from or what color our skin is, we all want the same thing.
mm.
Happy children, healthy children,
Correct.
safe housing, good medical care,
Yeah.
good education, and a HelloBaby in your neighborhood.
Absolutely. And on that note, Debbie, I just want to say what a fascinating conversation this has
Oh,
been,
you've been so fun to talk to. Thank
And,
you.
thank you for all the amazing work you're doing for so many children.
Thank you.
Thank you and
Thank you.
good
It's
luck.
been my love and my pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.